low point. And we had tried other things before. We had tried counseling, we had tried some marriage weekends, but nothing really changed it.
And our marriage was certainly at probably its lowest point. In our whole marriage, I had multiple inappropriate relationships and affairs, and we had been separated multiple times throughout our marriage because we were at the bottom of the barrel. We filed for divorce, signed the papers, waited for the last signature, and that was it. We were done.
I was actually kind of against marriage weekends just because we had done some before and they didn't really do anything. But the couple that was the coach, they were the coaches at the time, they were friends of ours. And they basically said, why don't you give it a try? So we thought, well, we don't really want to get divorced, but at that point, that's where we were headed. And we thought, give it one last effort.
We had been to marriage weekends, marriage retreats, read the right verses, do the right steps in the right order, and get some results. But this was appealing because it is exactly as it's described. It was described as an intensive. This isn't going to be a quick fix. This isn't going to be a Band-Aid on a big wound. It was going to be intense with specific strategies and sessions. And when you leave, it's not that everything is fixed, but if you can move from 3% hope to 10% hope, if you can move from one step forward to 5 steps forward with still 95 to go. And so it was really intense, and that was attractive to us to try something that would be pretty much a Hail Mary for us. And so we thought, we'll take a step towards it. There were a few other couples that were with us, and I think that was capped at a certain number. So it was maybe us and maybe 2 other couples and a host guest, the host coaching couple, a second chair. So it wasn't an overwhelming amount of people. It was a more intimate gathering. Topics were covered in sessions, and then you were able to digest them. Things like forgiveness or trust building or fear buttons. We had a new term that was introduced to us called nose to nose and knee to knee, nose to nose. And again, it was intense. They were strategically designed to overcome some of those hurdles that we were steering at. And so there were probably, 6, 7, 12 sessions throughout the 48-hour time frame. And it was intense for sure.
What I do remember thinking is when we got there, I thought it would be more about our personal struggles. I thought we would be sharing a lot more about us, which was a little unnerving, I guess. But really what I appreciated was we did get to share parts of our story, but it wasn't so much focused on, here's your problems. Instead, it was focused on, here are some tools to help you fix your problems. So we all had different problems in the room. We all had different issues, but what we went over were things that would cover all of those things. Like Bob said about the fear buttons, the trust and communication and conflict, all of those things.
Right, yeah.
And those tools are what, we use today.
Right.
That was 6 years ago. One thing that we appreciated, at least I think we did, was after the intensive, they gave you homework to do.
Right.
And so we were pretty committed to doing that. We thought, it's not just one weekend, but it's continual work. And even now, many years later, we still are working on those things. We've come a long way. And I feel like now when we have conflict or if something comes up, we do resort back to the tools and using the tools that we learned at the intensive. Obviously, we're not perfect. We still have issues in our marriage, but I feel like at the point where we came to the intensive, we were pretty much done. And we didn't really have any hope. And after the marriage intensive, it gave us hope. And that was huge.
Yeah. From my perspective, the view on this question is God fixes broken things. We needed a marriage intensive to right the ship or the direction that we were headed. And it wasn't to fix all. We still had an awful lot of work to do, but we got pointed in the right direction. We left with some tools. It is a real good illustration. I can remember that from the weekend that we could begin to use. So as you fast forward now, it's been 6 or 7 years, whatever it's been. We still use some of those tools today because we can remember them. We still have our binder. These are things that then begin to save our marriage to the point where here we are today, when we came from such despair to maybe the healthiest point it's been. And we've been married, we just celebrated 25 years, miraculously so. So yeah, it was putting tools in our toolbox that we could use, and God definitely saved our marriage.
My biggest thing is do it. It's an investment of time. It's an investment of money. If you have little kids, you've got to rearrange where you put your kids, and it's so worth it. It's worth the investment to build into your marriage. There's really no other weekend that's like it, and I know for us, it was transformational.
Yeah, we've interacted with a number of couples that we've personally known, or some individuals who have called in here to the Marriage Hub and helped steer them towards an intensive. I always like to joke around, if you're going to spend, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 on your wedding, and now you're 5, 6, 8, 20, and it's falling apart. You can quit and take the path of least resistance, or you can say, maybe God does fix broken things, and give it a shot. And will it work? I have no idea. Is it expensive? I suppose maybe it is, but why wouldn't you give it a shot if you put all of this money and bandwidth, emotion, and everything to get you to this point? Why wouldn't you just make a little investment and see what God's going to do about it? So I just tell people it is worth a shot to see what God's going to do.
Yes, and I would even say I've talked to friends who aren't where we were that many years ago. They didn't have the divorce papers almost ready to be submitted.
Yeah.
They just have different issues, and their marriages maybe aren't exactly where they should be. And I've even encouraged those couples to do a marriage intensive. I feel like the tools, again, just going back to the tools that you're taught, are really good for every couple. They're things that we definitely use and can make even a semi-healthy marriage even healthier. I think it's for both.